Okay, we're here with Nancy, smarTours product manager, discussing her recent trip to China. Nancy, thanks again for doing this.
We meet again.
That's right. Before we were talking about Iran, and now it's another part of the world, to China. So Nancy, tell us, where did you go on your recent trip?
Beijing, Xi'an, Shanghai, and the province of Hubei, a town called Wuhan.
A town. How many people live in that town?
14 million, 10 to 14 million.
So
give or take a few million.
A small town.
Right.
Anywhere you hadn't been before?
Wuhan.
Wuhan?
Yes. I haven't been to the rest of China in quite some time, so there have been quite a few changes.
Well, let's first. I have to ask, why Wuhan? What brought you there?
I've never been,
yeah.
And there are so many provinces, and this was one that I decided to focus on. You read about it; it's the cradle of where modern day China began. There was the Wuhan Uprising. I think it was in 1911, around that time. And that was when they overthrew the Qing dynasty. So the time of the dynasties had left. So the Republic of China was born, and that was the cradle of where it started. And it's an important trading position because there's the Yangtze and the Han River. They meet. So all the trading. It was a big trading port years ago, and it has quite a history. So it was an interesting place. It was just very different because it was a province. It's not something that people generally go to, but they will.
Yeah,
they will.
And that's great to hear. And so, what were some of the highlights of Wuhan?
Well, I flew into Wuhan. And the hotels are nice, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a modern city, and it has a lot of old still around. It's a very warm city, and there's a lot of mist in the air. And they say that all the poets lived there, which I could see. It's almost mystical. You see all the flowers, like bright colors of the flowers, and the overcast skies, which is a good part of the year. They have sun, of course, but just the overall atmosphere was kind of mystical. They have the Yellow Crane Tower, and that oversees, you can go up there and you see the whole town. And there's a fable where a shopkeeper had a little inn, and a man came and asked for a bowl of wine. And he was ragged, and every day he'd come in, and every day the man, for about 6 months, would give him wine. Then he disappeared. The guy came back, and he said, I'm going to help you with your business. And he took an orange peel, and he drew a yellow crane on the wall. And he clapped his hands, and the yellow crane would dance. So this guy used that to his advantage, and it became like the hot spot of Wuhan and China. Everybody would come to this inn to see the yellow crane dance. The guy came back a few years later. The guy who owned the inn was a billionaire by then, and thanked the man, who then took off on the crane into the clouds, and he realized that he had been an immortal. So he built a huge tower in his name, and people come from all over to see it, and it gives a great vantage point to the city. It
looks like a beautiful building from the pictures.
You see everything, and you see the splashes of color, and there are a lot of poems written about it. It's a very intellectual type of a city. They have beautiful lakes. They have East Lake, which is the largest urban lake in China, and people like the zip cars in America. They have like zip bikes, where it's different than the city bikes that we have here, where they're motorized. You put the money in, and then you drop them off somewhere else. It's a cute idea.
Yeah.
We should have it.
I guess we'll have to talk to the mayor.
We'll have to talk about it.
And am I right? You had a neat cooking experience?
Where I went to the chef's house, which is there are 3 districts. There's Wuchang, Hankou, and Hanyang, which is more of the port. And it's a huge building with many different kitchens, and it's a chef who I saw the kitchens we'll be working in. He'll teach us how to make different meals. They have a lot of the hot and dry noodles. We call them, I think I order them as the sesame noodles. They call them hot and dry noodles. I'm not sure why they're dry, but they're good. They have a lot of fish there. They have a lot of dumplings, and they'll teach you how to make a meal. You'll go shopping. The open markets for the food are just amazing. It's fruit on steroids. I saw such huge peppers. I mean, just
literal steroids, or
like literal. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Just huge.
Yeah.
I took pictures of them. I thought it was just really wild, and the markets that in and of themselves are just really interesting to look.
And am I right? There's a famous old instrument as well.
Yes, the bell chimes. And when you go to the Yellow Crane Tower, which we'll go to, they have about a half an hour production there where they have, people dancing in beautiful costumes, and then they have the man with the chimes, and I think they're 2 to 3 octaves, and each one has a different sound, and it's really great. But the museum houses the original old ones. So
and we're talking a couple thousand years old, or I mean, it's
very thousands and thousands of years old. These are all. I mean, they're old. So many old relics from all the different dynasties.
And I guess if you had to say, if you're talking to somebody who's planning a trip to China, obviously you have your Beijing, you have your Xi'an, you have your Shanghai, you have the Yangtze River cruise. Those are some of the classic highlights. What does Wuhan provide?
This is real China. I'm not saying Beijing is not real China, because they have 25 million. Shanghai, I think, has 32 million. But it's really almost a neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, the people have lived there for many years, and you see everyday life. And when you travel, I mean, that's what you want to see. You of course, you go to Xi'an, you see the terracotta warriors. You go to Beijing, and you see the Great Wall and the Forbidden City. And Shanghai is just exploding. It's a great place. But this is a real place. I mean, it's a place to explore. They have so many different stories they can tell you. The people are really friendly, and it's a part of China that will be discovered. You should go there before other people go, and you can discover. You can see how people live every day. You get up in the morning, and they'll take you to a place where you can do Tai Chi along the water. It's really.
That's neat. That might be hard. That might be harder to do in a place like Beijing or Shanghai. Not impossible, but maybe a little bit harder.
It would be really. You'd have to. It's like going to New York Sports and Racket Club in Beijing.
Yeah,
it's
right.
not like that in Wuhan. It's natural. It's people will be doing it the way they did years ago. You don't have to go to a health club or to a special class. It's just done.
Yeah.
So you'll see China the way it is. But it's going to grow.
Yeah, and you mentioned the hotels are...
Hotels are great.
Yeah.
Really first-class hotels that we're using and that I stayed in. Great food, really good food.
Glad to hear. That's wonderful.
Really good
That sounds like a great trip. What about the rest of the experience? We'd be remiss not to... You said not to address... You said earlier that China has changed a lot since you were there.
China is huge. China's always huge, but it's even huger than huge. And buildings have just, in Shanghai is beautiful. At night on the Bund with all the lights. The old buildings melt with the new buildings, and you see the old, the Peace Hotel, the Fairmont Peace, and the history behind that. And then in Shanghai, across the water, you see there are synagogues where the Jewish people live, and just all the buildings around there. There's a lot of life, a lot of students, I noticed, lots of students. So it seems like a good place to go for your year abroad.
Yeah.
I think it would be great.
Yeah.
And of course, Xi'an has the Muslim market, which is always bustling. And there was a wedding there that day, so you saw all, the celebration, which is nice. And then the terracotta warriors, which is just another marvel to look at. And what can you say about Beijing? It's the Forbidden City. It's you marvel at it.
Yeah.
And by the way, it was sunny and the weather was pretty good. It was about 20 degrees Celsius when I was there.
Oh, not too bad. And you were there in March, correct?
The end of March.
Yeah.
And the weather was 70 Fahrenheit. It was sunny. It was pretty clear. They're doing a lot environmentally at this moment too, so you can see the work that's been done.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And how did you feel? How were you received by the Chinese people?
I could say it couldn't be better. It couldn't be better. Everyone was very warm, inviting. Couldn't have been nicer. My hosts were great. The people that I came in contact with in the street, you ask directions. People are very nice. It's safe. There's absolutely no problem at all. One of the fewer safe places in the world.
Yeah. No, and that did it seem like they weren't tired of Americans coming. They were happy to see.
They were happy.
Yeah.
No, they're not tired of anyone coming to visit.
Yeah.
And they use it to their advantage. They're hospitable and they're friendly. And I was really amazed at how it's become a global society now. I mean, it's really a force to be reckoned with at this moment. The educational system is very good. And again, like in Iran, they're concerned about the same things we're concerned with.
Right.
Where their kids can get into school,
right.
How they're going to pay the rents are going up sky high. In Shanghai, you can't get a one-bedroom apartment for any kind of price these days. Same thing in Beijing. Even Wuhan.
Yeah.
Get in now. Get a flat there while you still can.
Well, we'll start with a trip, and then maybe we'll consider.
They have all these inner alleyways, with different neighborhoods in Wuhan too, where you have like school type of neighborhoods where a lot of the kids hang out, and then you have the market areas, and they're doing a lot of building. They have a huge metro system. Every city there has a huge metro system. They have like 25 lines. Yeah. So there's not a lot of people, but there's a lot. The infrastructure is very good, and it's being built as we speak. It's exploding. So they can handle as many people who that want to come. Yeah. And the flights, they have flights around the clock. So.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's so much easier to get to China. You can
a hop, skip, and a jump.
That's right. That's right. Well, any other reflections on your trip? Any other any tips for people going to China or thinking about going to China anytime soon?
I think that the fact that we offer Wuhan as a place to go, melds well with the rest of the trip, because you see the basics. You take the Yangtze River cruise, which is always great. And you see the way people live. I think that you'll be very surprised to see how the real neighborhoods work, and you can compare that with all the tourist things that you should see, because it's all history. It's full of history, and getting the visa was not hard. You just follow the instructions. The flights were good, and it's very well connected with flights. So, I flew Beijing, Xi'an, Wuhan, Shanghai. It's all wherever you go, it's an hour, because Wuhan they call it the Chicago. It's like smack in the middle. It's landlocked.
Is it windy as well, or with the?
No, it's the landlocked Chicago.
The landlocked Chicago.
There's no border. I think what their claim to fame also is that they're 2 provinces away from any border. Everybody else is maybe a province away, but they're 2 provinces away. They're smack in the middle, landlocked. But they have the lakes, which is where that ethereal type of look comes from when you go through the town there.
Did you write any poetry when you were in Wuhan, like the great poets, or?
No.
No?
I didn't, that went away when I was about 10 years old,
There
and I
you go.
realized I wasn't going to be a poet.
Well,
But
good.
if you have the inclination, it's just a beautiful place.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear it was such a good trip, and thank you for sharing with us. And we hope that many people consider a trip to China in the next little bit. And
It's a good time to go.
It is, yeah. And why? And just you say that because.
I think our relations with China are coming along pretty
Yeah.
well, and I think that's works to our favor very
Yes.
well. And they're very welcoming to Americans right
Yeah.
now, and I think you need to jump on that bandwagon
That's right.
while it exists.
And it's safe, and there's
It's
so much
safe,
going on.
It's safe, and
Yeah.
there's always something to do, and the food is really good,
Yeah.
and
Good.
the people are nice.
Good. Well, thank you, Nancy, and glad you had a great trip.
Thank you.